two to join.
Okay, we're live.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're not officially started yet. We're going to allow another half a minute or so to see if we get, there's two members that we're waiting on. So we're going to see if they can join within the next minute or so. If they're not here by, let's say 7:02, my clock just changed to 7:01. If they're not here by 7, oh, there's Malcolm. Good. So Malcolm's here. So it's just Mark. And Malcolm, could you just check your audio and make sure we can hear you okay? I do see you. Oh, you're unmuted now, Malcolm. So I guess your audio is working. Okay, well, why don't we get started then? And we'll do a roll call after some introductory words. So we'll officially start this public meeting of the Newburyport Historical Commission for Thursday, the 24th of June, 2021, a Zoom virtual meeting. As we typically do, we'll start with the roll, see who's here. Mr. Malcolm Carnwath, I think
yes,
you're here.
I'm here.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Mark Sandrone, don't see him on board yet, so he is not yet here. So let me just move him to the absent department. One moment. Mr. Fay.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Peter McNamee. Can you hear me, Peter? You're muted locally, it looks like.
Present. Sorry, my computer did that by itself.
Yep, there you go. Okay, Joe Morgan.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Patricia Pecknick.
Here.
Okay, and the chair, Glenn Richards. Very good. We should have a relatively short meeting tonight, but I'll go briefly through some of these rules. Also, I should say our present note taker, Gretchen Joy, and Caitlin Sullivan is driving the presentation there. Commissioners only will have audio enabled. One member of the public at a time can be unmuted if we have a public hearing. That is unlikely tonight. Applicants and their representatives will also be unmuted during their presentations if that should be required. Again, tonight's a little unusual. We may not have that either. I'm going to skip the spiel about raising your hand. Well, do we have any attendees, Gretchen? Let's see. No, we don't. So
No.
I'm going to, I don't even, if there aren't any even outside members, so I'm going to skip the spiel about raising your hand and so on. But I will still remind you, if you're making a motion, just state your name so the note taker can capture that. And we will officially start. We just have one item of business and then and then approval of minutes and some updates from the chair. So 10 Sylvester Street. The applicant is not here tonight. Correct me if I say anything wrong, by the way, Caitlin, but the applicant is not here. However, Caitlin Sullivan has been in touch with them and an arrangement has been made. It was determined that their application wasn't really complete, etc. So they are they have requested a continuance to July 8th, and they're going to be correcting and resubmitting materials in the meanwhile. So the chair would be interested in a motion to continue this matter without prejudice to our meeting of July 8th, 2021. Do I hear such a motion?
I'll make that motion. This is Peter.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Is there a second?
Seconded. This is Joe. Seconded.
Thank you, Joe. We'll do a quick roll call. Starting with Malcolm.
Yes.
Okay. Hang on a second here. Christopher Fay.
Yes.
Thank you. Peter McNamee.
Yes.
Okay, Joe Morgan.
Yes.
Patricia Picnic.
Yes.
Okay, and the chair is also in agreement. Votes yes. So that motion is carries, and we will revisit that with the applicant on the 8th of July. I trust you all had a chance to review the minutes from June 10th. That was our last meeting. I will gladly entertain a motion to approve those minutes unless anyone has a correction they'd like to make. or offer?
This is Peter. I do have one question.
Yep.
And I am having some significant trouble with my computer, so I can't call it up right now. But I was wondering if it was necessary. Here we go. I got it. Oh, nope, somebody else has it. Wait a second. So about halfway along, comments from members of the public are often valuable and therefore might not be beneficial to limit them. I want to discuss real briefly whether or not we should add the words "in number" after the word "them." I think it is important to keep the two-minute time limit, and I think the way that this could be taken from some people is that public has unlimited time to say what they want to say. I think we want to make sure that we're not posing any limits. If 50 people want to speak, they should all be able to speak for 2 minutes each. I don't know how important a point that is, whether or not this needs to be a matter of the minutes or if it's just the rules that we set out at the beginning of each meeting.
Yeah, I think there's sort of two questions there. I think for the purpose of the minutes, it is a little ambiguous. I think, and Gretchen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you were trying to capture was that discussion, to the best I can recall of it, that was sort of a, for lack of a better term, a philosophical statement that since comments on the public are often useful, we don't want to unduly limit them. I think that was kind of the general.
That was what one person said, and I was trying to just write a paragraph without saying, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that. I figured you would take it according to the application. So something like the institution where there's a lot of people, you want to limit it. And when there's not many people or somebody from the Preservation Trust who has a lot to say, I figured it's too situational.
Yeah.
It's not a hard rule.
Yeah, I think I was the one who said I wouldn't necessarily want to limit public comment to 2 minutes all the time, because that very night we were discussing the masonry pamphlet. And I said, for example, Tom Colkerjohn is here and it might take him more than 2 minutes to explain something to us. So what Gretchen just said is what I intended to say, which means Gretchen's really good as a note taker.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily want to say 2 minutes all the time, no matter what.
I think my sense is that we all kind of understand that was what the intent of the comment was. Peter, are you okay with that? Or what?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I use the word might. It's ambiguous. I use might because it's just ambiguous.
Yeah.
You weren't spelling out rules that you were voting on. It was just a discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Someone should make a motion. Christopher raises his hand. Okay. Sorry, I talked over you there, but Christopher has made a motion to approve them. Is it seconded?
This is Peter. I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Okay, we'll do a quick roll call again. Malcolm?
I was absent.
Oh, that's right, you were absent. Okay, hang on a second. So you are a abstain. Chris, you were here, right? Mr. Fay,
Yes.
you
Nope.
Are you a yes vote? I'm sorry, your audio. Okay, yes, I can see you nodding. Peter?
Yes.
Okay. Joe, were you here? Yeah, you were here. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And Patricia?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. So the minutes are officially approved. Thank you, Gretchen. Okay, I have a couple of quick updates. I'll try to be brief. At that meeting, speaking of that pamphlet on the masonry, that we did vote that to accept it but the chair could make minor changes. I got a little carried away and made fairly extensive changes. But anyway, what I did was I forwarded it back to Tom and Stephanie to look it over and make sure I didn't introduce any errors. The content is essentially the same. It's just kind of reorganized and given them a little bit of polish. So once they give that the okay, I'll you all will feast your eyes on it. Update number 2 is, do you remember the house at 29 Harding Ave? This was the little house that we did a site visit on up in the Belleville section. Well, to make a long story short, the artwork looks like it's on its way to finding a new home with the Museum of Old Newbury. I'm very happy to report that. I just happened to call the developer Nat Norton, I believe his name is, and he's very close to, he hadn't demolished anything yet, but he was like about to. So I said, hey, if you want anything, go get it now because it's coming down soon. So I met a person from the Cushing House Museum, that's the Museum of Old Newbury, and also one of the preservationists from the library. We met up there. They were very impressed with the artwork. It's, I think of it as folk art, and they did as well. And the person from the museum, Kristen, I believe her name was, she went back, spoke to other folks at the museum, and they decided they would like to help it find a home for a couple of the ships. If you remember the ships that were mounted on the railing, those are currently resting in my garage while waiting for them to, take ownership of it. And Nat said he would work with them if they want to. He would try to cut out those major pieces of the exterior wall, complete with the artwork. And so they're gonna, I'm leaving that between Nat and the museum to work out the details of that. But I'm all in all, kind of a happy ending to that particular story because very interesting situation over there.
And thank you to Glenn, and also thank you to Peter, because Peter had made comments about, preserving that folk art as well.
Okay. The last update from me is really a brief discussion to have with you guys. It's sort of a continuation of what we started a couple of weeks ago on the meetings. I had a question. I know if you've listened in on some of the other meetings like the ZBA and so in particular, well, they're pretty formal. I don't think we need to get quite that formal, but for example, rigidly follow Robert's Rules of Order or anything, but we can be a bit more better organized in terms of the structure of how we tackle each agenda item. So the order they use is the applicant presents, makes their case, so to speak. Then they do a public comment period. Then they have questions from the board. I think that's where the commissioners can ask questions to the applicant. And then they have a deliberation. And typically in their deliberation, the chair will actually cycle through each member of the board to get their take on whatever, the matter is. And often that's kind of an interesting thing at first my thought was, gee, is it sort of putting people on the spot? But then I said, no, not really. It's really, but it could be a way to make sure that everyone has a chance to express their view on it. Oftentimes in their meetings, and I imagine it would happen with us as well, if someone has already said what you were thinking or what you were thinking of saying, you just say, yeah, Joe just said everything I was about to say. So, next. And then finally, they after that deliberation, they either take a continuance or take a vote on a motion to approve whatever it is. It's interesting that they have that thing about a continuance or vote on a motion. Apparently, the sense I got of one of the matter I was paying attention to at their last meeting was it became clear during their deliberations that the motion or the whatever it is that was being sought, permit or something, was not going to be approved. So the applicant decided, maybe I'll ask for continuance and come back when there are because there were one or two people on the board short. So maybe come back when, I have another chance at maybe getting this approved. So it's kind of a interesting little, almost like a little courtesy or bailout for the applicant if they see that they're about to go down. Anyway, so I want to know what you guys thought of that. If the only thing that I think might not quite fit is that, public comment tip, I know it's not required that we take public comment on the initial part of the first choice we have to make as far as deciding whether something is historically significant or not, but there's no reason why we couldn't. So what do you guys think? Are you familiar with that procedure, and any thoughts on that? I could do like what the other chairs do and start calling on people. It's I'm not sure what order he goes in, whether it's alphabetical or what.
Is that the heart of what you're proposing, Glenn, is whether or not we should just cycle through and everybody has an opportunity to say yes or no?
Well, that's part of it, Peter. During the quote deliberation, yeah, I think I would like to, just check in with everyone during that. And if, like I said, if someone's already said what, has read your mind, so to speak, then you don't have to say it again. Just say, yeah, Patricia or Joe or Malcolm, whatever, I agree with them or whatever. But what do you guys think? That good, bad, and different? Peter, as long as you're still unmuted, what do you think of that?
It makes sense to me, provided we can sort of clip through, orderly and quickly without a lot of, repetition.
Yeah. And that's what they do. They just go through, and I don't hear hardly any repetition. Typically, the first couple of members might say a couple of things, and then the remainder quite often will say, yeah, that guy said what I was about to say, so move on. Or not, but anyway, yeah, so they don't have a lot of repetition. But I'd like to hear from, everyone, particularly, Patricia, Malcolm, Christopher, Joe. Joe, you've been quiet past few meetings. Any thoughts on that? Have you had a chance to listen in on any of those other meetings to see how that system works?
Are you talking to me now?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Joe. Yes, I was.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I just sit in on that ZBA meeting, and I was pretty impressed by the procedural aspect of it and the fluid nature of the discussion. And clearly, they're very practiced, and there's a couple of lawyers on that ZBA, so I think that they're much more maybe trained in that kind of discourse. I don't know. I was very favorably impressed though with that. I don't know if this commission can pull that off. I think that where much of our deliberation is subjective. I think they have to respond to very strict criteria on the two Neptune project. They had to really evaluate the variance based on specific criteria, and they did that. They went through very methodically and did that. I don't think we have that kind of structure in our deliberations. I think it would be good to, what you're suggesting is to ask each individual commissioner if they have something to say, just so that you have given them the courtesy of speaking. I don't think that would put them on the spot at all. They can very clearly decline if they have nothing to say, or if they just want to say others have already picked it up what they want to do. But I think that the chair of the ZBA was very efficient and was very clearly very very methodical and taking care of business. I was impressed by that. I'm I'm not suggesting Glenn, that you be that way. I think, again, I think we do it differently here. So
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I understand exactly what you're talking about, Joe, because they do have some very specific legal requirements, and the ordinance that they work under is a bit different than ours, and ours is a bit more. You're right; it is a bit more subjective in ways. Chris, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I have no problem going around the room. I would like to see. I like the idea of sort of a 4-part harmony there.
Okay.
That way, and I think we should do that. Come to a conclusion on that sooner than later, because this was a light meeting tonight, but that way we can have in place so we don't get the interruptions. That's what's really been bothering me, is that, like I said last time, is the interruptions, the I object, the maybe where you guys should suggest all this sort of stuff, and once they make the presentation, that's it. If we have questions, we can ask, but we should be in charge of that sort of part of it. And so I think the order that you described earlier works really well in theory, and that we should do something like that, and just so that people know that once you made your presentation, unless we have a question,
Right.
your job is done. So make your best presentation possible.
Yeah, and of course they do get questions, and I thought on that ZBA meeting, the chair did sort of waylay an interruption where the applicant's attorney wanted to start rebutting some of the public comments, and he said, well, just hang on, we'll probably get to it during our normal Q&A, which in fact they did. So I thought that was good that he kind of managed that, and that little interruption there, and kind of skirted around it.
Like I said last time, we're not in a court of law. We're just an advisory board. And if the public makes a comment, then I don't think there's necessarily a need to rebut the public's comment.
Right.
It stands, and then we ultimately make the decision.
Yep. Patricia, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, I like the way Rob does it, because he'll say, does anyone have anything to say? And maybe somebody will say something and someone will say something else. Then he will call on the remaining people. I'm not sure I would have been comfortable, for example, on 3 Hancock, if you had gone around the room and just said, let's hear from Patricia on 3 Hancock. And they would have said, I got nothing. And then maybe someone else would have said, it's okay. Then you would have called on Joe. And then I would have realized, oh my God, the issue of structural integrity. So it would work for me if you continue to do it by soliciting any information from any of us. That way, if Joe started talking about structural integrity, I can think about it. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like I have nothing, I have nothing, I have nothing, I have nothing. Oh, this one person has something, let Joe talk first, and let someone else talk. And then you can call on the remaining people, right? I'm not sure it needs to be formulaic, like first Christopher Fay, now this person.
Right.
So I think the way Rob does it works, and it allows people to hang back and listen
is that
to others, or lead with a question or something.
Yeah, did I'm trying to remember, I don't remember exactly. Is that what he did? Like, if there were people who had who basically, basically kind of raised their hands, so to speak, either literally or figuratively, they would go ahead and speak. And then if there were still other members that hadn't said anything, he would ask them.
Calls on them, yeah.
Okay,
So I can confirm that, but that is my memory, is that he asks for volunteers and then moves on to the next person, the next person, the next person.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. Malcolm.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. One of the things that I like the way Patricia just discussed it, and that is, we may have some people talk rather than just go through the list,
right?
Because you might not have thought of something that someone else brings up, and you agree with that kind of logic on a particular situation. So but I do like the idea of having a format that we could fall into, that makes things go like a well-oiled machine,
Okay. All right. Well, what I would propose then is Let's see, did we hear from everyone? Let's see, we heard from Christopher, Peter, Joe, Patricia. Yeah, I think we did. All right, why don't so then why don't we try it the next meeting? We'll I'll attempt to run it that way, and we'll see how that goes.
Great.
All right. And as long as, the last thing I'll share with you guys before we take the motion to adjourn is, I thought a lot about all your comments from 2 weeks ago and so on. And I came to a certain realization that I think is going to be very helpful towards the way I manage the future meetings. And what it is I realized that I have had in both my prior professional career and in other things, a lot of I did a lot of work where I was doing interviews and creating educational program, like audio programs, where that very often they would take an interview format, and it was a lot like, a podcast type thing or something like that. And I think what was happening is unconsciously I was falling into that kind of a mode, rather than keeping it focused on the fact that that's not what this meeting is about. This is, it's not a podcast. It's a business meeting of a public commission, and it's a public meeting. And so anyway, I had that. For me, this was a revelation, not a revelation, just an awakening that, oh, okay, I think I see what, it kind of explained what you guys were all sensing, and explained, why it was so easy for me to kind of fall into that casual chat with whether it's an applicant or whomever, which you're quite rightly point out, is not what the meeting is about or appropriate. So thanks again for all your comments about that. And so we'll see how that goes. With that, if someone would care to make a motion to adjourn, the chair is perfectly happy to hear it.
This is Joe. I move to adjourn the June 24th, 2021 Newburyport Historical Commission meeting.
Thank you, Joe. Very formally stated. Is there a second?
Second, Chris, second.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay. So Malcolm, vote on that.
Yes.
Okay, hang on a second. 1 second. Okay, Christopher Fay.
Yes.
Okay, Peter.
Yes.
Okay, Joe.
Yes.
And Patricia.
Yes.
And the chair is yes. So the chair thanks you for your hard work in this meeting, and you get out early, can enjoy what's left of the lovely evening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks on July 8th.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, all.
Okay,
Thanks.
good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Night.